Well, good morning. Today's footage is from October 31st. I'm working on the floor joists now that the main floor structure is in place and leveled and braced and blocked. The floor joists are being set at 16-inch on center because I personally hate having floor joists that are 2 foot on center. I could get away with that if I felt like I needed to, because the plan is that the flooring will have a 1-inch board on the very bottom. It'll be sitting across on top of those cross braces, and then attached to those cross braces and attached to the ends. Then on top of that will be filled with insulation, and then a 1.5-inch thick board will be run at a 45-degree angle to the floor joists and secured as subfloor. On top of that will end up being a 1-inch-ish thick hardwood floor out of ash that we will mill, obviously. So at the moment I'm going through and just marking where each floor joist actually needs to fall, and I've got a big pile in our little pavilion shed there that I actually quit counting how many I needed, so I just kept milling a 2x6, an oversized 2x6 whenever I was able to, and just set them aside. So then I've got to square up all of the ends and put them in place and get them figured out and secured. And it actually turned out pretty close. I think if I remember right, I only needed 4 more to actually finish all of the floor joists from just what I was, like I said, just kind of guessing at how many I needed. So that wasn't bad. And these are also obviously sitting on those cross beams on top of the trailer frame rails, and then attached on both sides to the rim joists. So the actual size of these, if you're curious, is about 2 3/8 inch by about 6 3/4 inch. So they're pretty good, sturdy, beefy floor joists. And like I said, I'm just kind of picking through what I had back there. Excuse me. And I decided that a lot of this is 1x material. That's what I'm standing up on end. Most of that is going to be used to build little crates or pallets or totes, things, whatever. But those 2x6s are what I'm after. So that pile's actually close to gone as of today. Now that I've got a lot of the structures on, the roofs on, and I'm using a lot of the 2x4s that I have to finish filling in walls and get things ready, because I'll need places to secure. So I've got the bents, and they're 8 feet on center, and then I'll have a 2x4 running vertically so that I can secure the it'll give the insulation a little bit more structure, and B, it'll give me a place to secure the wall boards and ceiling boards so that they are not they don't have to be 8 feet long, because there's a lot of lumber. Like you can see this tree over here on the left, it's got a pretty good crook to it. So you've got a section there at the bottom that's going to be roughly maybe 8 feet, and then you've got a bunch of other wood up there that is going to be usable, but not in long straight sections. And so if I do smaller boards, then I can actually get more material out of the logs that I have, just because not all of them are perfectly straight. And I like the grain of the wood, so I'm less interested in having perfectly straight, clear grain, because I like being able to see the different patterns. So I won't ever intentionally be cutting any of these floorboards as specifically quarter sawn, for instance. Even though that's technically what a lot of people claim you're supposed to do for flooring. Now this would be different if I were trying to sell this as flooring. Sure, I'd want it to be as strong and stable as possible, but like I said, I like the look of the different types of grains, and I like the look of having the knots in it and things like that. And since I'm not building anything to a minimum standard, I have a little bit more luxury with what needs to happen, or what can happen. That's one of the best advantages of being able to mill everything myself, is that since I'm not going for a minimum, I don't have to worry about a lot of the issues that come with when you have a minimum size of board. I would much rather build bigger and then have a little bit of leeway, because, for instance, like I said, for a lot of things like some of like the bents and things like that, if there's going to be exposed framing, I actually like having the look of a little bit of wane, and so some of the rafters, for instance, have a little bit of wane on them. I'm going to try and see if I can figure out how to have the ceiling boards inset a little bit so that you'll actually have the exposed, you'll have the rafters themselves exposed, so you'll actually be able to see the rafter, like maybe just a little bit. So if the final thickness of the planed finished ceiling boards ends up being, for instance, 1 inch, then maybe they'll be set back so they're actually attached 1¼ inches, so there's just a little bit of that rafter sticking out. I haven't entirely worked out those details or figured that out yet, but that's the hope, the plan. So as always, it's starting to get a little bit late because, you know, with daylight savings garbage, we look at having sunset around 4:20ish some days now. 4:30, I think, right now is for instance the sunset today. But it is what it is. Just continuing along, and one of the things I've definitely learned through this project, for a lot of years I actually was very adamantly against cordless power tools. Back in the day, I have a bunch of them now. They're DeWalt 20 volt, and I love them. I'm not sponsored by them. I wouldn't necessarily be loyal to them, except that I don't want to have multiple battery types and have to worry about which battery to charge for which tool. So I ended up getting a DeWalt because I had a friend that was up here helping us build one of our sheds, and he had a cordless DeWalt, and it was the hammer drill, and that thing had enough power that it injured my wrist the first time I tried to drill in a 8-inch structural screw. It ripped that out of my hands because I wasn't expecting it, so I was pretty impressed and ended up buying one, and therefore I have a bunch of DeWalts. But the circular saw I got thinking, hey, this would be great because I could actually work out in the, you know, in the forest and building stuff and not have to worry about power, and that turned out to be a huge mistake. Sure, it's great for being able to do a quick cut here if you need it, but if you're trying to do like on these rafters, I initially tried using that and would go through 4 batteries in 20 minutes trying to cut through wood. So this corded circular saw tears through things faster and more accurately. Actually, oddly, the blade doesn't dull as quickly as the circular saw, which is really weird. Something to do with the teeth, I guess, but I can cut things so much faster and not have to worry about whatever. So if I had a big project that I knew I was going to be doing a lot of power, a lot of cutting, I would actually pull out my generator. I'd rather pay for the propane or gasoline to run the generator and power the circular saw for all of that cutting and then get it all done, versus trying to do it with batteries and dealing with having to, spend 4 or 5 hours charging 5 or 6 batteries just to get a half an hour's worth of work. But that's just me. Anyway, so the first cordless drill I ever had was a old Black & Decker 12 volt. It had 2 individual celled batteries and it had no power. I ended up giving it to a buddy who loves corded or cordless tools, and he was super happy with it. He's always had cordless tools, and I've always had corded up until recently. So anyway, little rant. But yeah, so now that I've got the far end, left end cut, I'm just trying to get them all in place, and this is where the battery happened to run out. So as always, thank you for watching. God bless you and yours, and stay safe out there.